Hi, this is Lance Edwards, and I want to welcome you to this edition of Apartment Wealth Nuggets, where I'm going to tell you quickly how a 10-year-old got started buying small apartments. So if a 10-year-old can do it, anybody can do it. It's fifth grade simple. Because let me share this with you. Here's the beauty of apartments. This is what I've discovered over teaching now over a couple of decades, is that you start where you are today. Whether you're a first-timer looking to get started and doing your first real estate deal, or maybe you're experienced having done single family, you've been buying rental houses, you've been flipping rental houses, no matter where you are, you start where you are today and then you scale up. That's the beauty of apartments. Now, what you will not need ever in getting started with apartments, you don't need a college education, you don't need a real estate license, you don't need any prior experience, you don't need to use your own cash or credit. You're certainly free to, but you don't have to. And you don't deal with tenants and toilets. My gosh, if I had to deal with tenants and toilets, I wouldn't be here speaking to you today. You don't need an automobile, and you don't need lots of time. So if you're not familiar with me, you imagine you are, but let me quickly tell you my story, because I want to tie this in to the experience I had getting started with small apartments. Is basically the experience I find so many of my student clients go through. You know, I've been buying and flipping apartments since 2003. I've done transactions from 2 doors to nearly 300 doors. I run 2 businesses. I have a transactions business where I'm buying projects, and I have a training company where I'm teaching people how to do it. And all these transactions that I'm doing are being done using OPM, other people's money. That's how I was taught to do it. That's how I do it. That's how I've done it. That's how I'm teaching you to do it today. And I've trained thousands, literally tens of thousands, since 2007 on how to follow the exact same system. But what I'm most proudest of is my youngest training success is this young man right here, Armin Abedini, lives in LA, California, 10 years old, 5th grader, bought a duplex. Now, you may be familiar, some of you may recall the TV show, the old game show, Smarter Than a 5th Grader. Well, he made the point right here. Here's a 5th grader. He came to the training with his father. His father brought along, went through the entire 3-day training, learned the system, went home with Dad. And admittedly, full disclosure, with some of Dad's help, he sourced the deal, he analyzed it, he screened it, he decided he wanted to buy it. Dad signed the contract, because 10-year-old can't sign a contract. Dad put up some of the money, he had his own private investor in his dad, and this 10-year-old bought a duplex. So if you've been having any hesitation about getting started in real estate or getting started in small apartments, I want to submit Exhibit A to you. Here's a 5th grader. A 5th grader can do it. I was so inspired with him having done this after following the system that now, once this happened, my new standard within the organization became everything has to become 5th grade simple. Everything has to become 5th grade simple. And that's the standard we set for constantly, having had a 5th grader now buy literally a duplex following our system. But that's not the first youngster we've had go through the system and using it successfully. Here's a 12-year-old. This is Dylan McNaughton. He came with his aunt and uncle to the 3-day training. He learned how to follow the system. And as a 12-year-old, he got on the phone calling brokers. He was calling brokers using the exact same script we taught him at the 3-day event. And I interviewed Dylan about this. This 12-year-old was calling it, and he was getting deal flow from these brokers. So I interviewed Dylan, and one of the questions I asked, I said, well, Dylan, do they understand you're 12 years old? Nah, they don't, no. Well, do they send you deals? Oh, yeah, they send me deals. Do they ever ask you for a proof of funds? No, nobody asks me for proof of funds. Well, Dylan, you're 12 years old. You're talking to these brokers. Aren't you scared talking to these brokers? And from the lips of babes comes wisdom. This is what Dylan said. And I want to share this with anybody who's having any hesitancy about getting on the phone and talking with a broker or talking with a seller. Dylan said this: what is there to be scared about? Other than the phone, they can't touch me. So I want to point to these youngsters that are literally following the system, don't know any better, and out getting deals done, getting deal flow created. And so if you've been having any hesitancy, I want to point to these youngsters who are doing it, simply following the system. It's all about following the system. Now, I've given you the story of these youngsters. Let me tell you, I can relate. Let me tell you a little bit of my story. You know, I just showed you that I'm doing these transactions, I've systematized the industry, done all these things. I didn't start out this way. I was just like probably you. Go back to a Friday, March 1, 2002, had a job, been working with this company for 17 years. I'm 40 years old, thinking life's good, I got everything secure, my financial security is pretty much set, thinking about the weekend. And that Friday was a defining moment in my life. That's when I got first introduced to layoffs. Watched my friends and colleagues being laid off because the company's executive management team had made some poor decisions, needed to do some cost cutting, and that was the first of a series of layoffs. Now, I was very lucky. I was not laid off on that Friday or any other subsequent Fridays, but it completely shattered my belief system and what I've been taught as a youngster growing up, because what I was taught as a youngster is go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and you're set for life. And that quickly was destroyed, shattered. And so the thought process that came to my mind at that point, starting on that Friday, was I need a plan B. I need an extra stream of income. And that's what sought me on a journey to find that stream of income. I ultimately found it in real estate. I found it in real estate investing. Yet it was thanks to a guide along the way who put me on the path to small apartments. It was a guide who was very familiar, very experienced in all assets or all aspects of real estate niches. And he said this to me that changed the course of my life. He said, Lance, I made a lot of money doing houses, but I came to realize that to meet my financial goals, I needed to shift to multifamily. Multifamily provided bigger numbers in a shorter time period. And I can remember those words to this day because it made such a huge impact to my life that when I decided to get started in real estate based upon his words, instead of getting started in single family, I decided to go ahead and jump into small apartments. And so my training began in small apartments, and that began my journey. I skipped single family, and I started with small apartments. And here's now a 10-year-old doing it. Here's a 12-year-old doing it. If you're having any hesitancy about this, just think of small apartments as just big houses. It's just big houses. And that's where I jumped off. And here's my very first deal, my critical first deal. That's me in front of the fourplex that I bought. That's me many years ago, about 40 pounds ago. And I did a little direct mail campaign. As I've been taught, the seller was out of Honolulu, Hawaii. This property was in Houston. It was Miss Manson. I spoke to her over the phone. And I ended up buying this property on 100% seller financing. 100% seller financing. I can remember sending the offer. I literally faxed the offer to her. That dates how long ago this was. Sending her an offer over a fax machine. I had zero experience in real estate. She never asked for a credit check. She simply wanted to get out of the property. It was 100% full. I got nothing down cash flow. And that's how I got started, just by deciding to get started. And I chose the path of getting started in small apartments. And from that start, that critical first deal, when my fear was huge, because we never were taught this stuff in school, I just had basic training. This was my critical first deal that had such a confidence boost for me that from that first deal, within 3 short years, working part-time in real estate, because I still had my full-time job, and I was working 60 hours a week to make sure I wasn't laid off at that corporate level, I was able to replace 100% and more, replace my job income, and ultimately escape the 20-year job using always other people's money on these projects. And it was the aspect of a guide who set me on this direction that led me to this journey. I never looked back. So I always find that the first deal is always a critical deal. And I'll prove the point to you. Have you ever been to a mom and pop store and at the cash register, what's hanging on the wall behind them at the cash register? Usually they have their first dollar. They have it framed. Why is that? Because that first dollar proves that was their first dollar in business. That proves they could do it. They could make $1 on their own. And I have found that the first deal in real estate or the first deal in small apartments has that instant confidence boost on everyone who's getting started, because it proves that we're not dependent upon a job. We're not dependent upon someone else to have our financial means. All those things that we were taught in school are not necessarily the law. They're certainly not the only way that we can go forward with our own financial direction. And so that's why the first deal is always the key one. That's why I always say you're just one deal away. You're just one deal away from that confidence boost that's going to put you on your journey. And that first check could be your first rent check, your first flip check, your first sales check, but there's always some critical deal along the way that proves that you can really do this. So that was my story. That's what brings me forward to today. I've systematized over the last 2 decades the entire business so it can be run just from a few hours per week from anywhere. That's how I run my business. I'm out syndicating apartments with my students. That means I'm out buying these projects and raising private money to do it. That's what syndication is all about. And I'm also the founder of the only network dedicated to small apartment success. And this is where I spend a lot of my time today. And what I consider the new opportunity in real estate investing is assembling the network for my students. I call it my Wealth Mastermind Network. And what it is my ready in advance resources for conducting successful apartments transactions. And within my network, for example, on the buyer lender network, there's entrepreneurs such as yourself that are being trained how to bring deals into the network. There's buyers there looking to buy these deals. There's lenders looking to loan on these deals, whether traditional lenders or private money lenders or hard money lenders. These are people I'm doing business with myself. I've vetted them out for my own business. I'm now opening up my Rolodex to my students so they can get the jump start into their own business. On the service side, when you're buying these apartments, you're going to need a lot of different service providers, the management companies, the insurance companies, the contractors, financial planners, just to put your financial affairs in order with your estate planning, etc., attorneys, cost segregation consultants for your tax savings, deal advisors, etc. All the professionals that I work with, I assemble my network, and I open up my Rolodex to my student clients. And if we don't have the source, maybe it's in a market where we don't have a management company already in the network, my team goes out and finds and vets that service for you, whatever that service provider is. This is the new opportunity right now. This is how students are jump starting. They get trained, and then now they have access to the network, the same people that I trust. That's how they're rapidly getting started into small apartments. And as I mentioned, I partner with my students on deals. This is Diana Donner. She lives in San Diego. She found this project for me in Oklahoma City. It's 56 units and 91% occupied. It was an internet deal. It was on the internet. It was out in the open for everyone. She found it. She, quote, green-lighted it using our software. I paid her a $25,000 finder fee for the lead. I closed it. I'm now out raising money on it, or have closed on it. I'm now potentializing it, raising the value on this property. And we've got a plaque on the property to her because she's the one that found it. It's the Diana Donner unit. This is our 90-day grand opening. I syndicated it using my network. That means I funded it using private investor money. These are some of my investors actually flew to the grand opening in Oklahoma, some of my management team members. Here's some of the actual investors with their plaques on the property. There's the lenders, there's the Dickies, there's the Bacas. That's my management team, that's the company, that's part of the team. All these are members of the team that I bring together to do this deal. And of course, I need to mention my spouse, my wife, Kim. Just like you have somebody key on your team, that's your support infrastructure. This is what the opportunity is. It's all being done with my network, with my Wealth Mastermind network. So in the example of this project, who did my team consist of? Well, it's my private investors. This project required $1 million cash, needed $630,000 for the down payment, needed another $370,000 for the rehab. That came from private investors. Had an 80% lender for the bank loan, had a management company, needed to provide them, came out of my network. The insurer, my insurance company is a company the other insurers go to get their quotes. So I'm getting quotes directly from the source and not paying a middleman, so I'm saving on insurance. That's part of the network. The cost segregation company. The cost segregation company is a company that came in and is allowing me to do bonus depreciation, 100% bonus depreciation on this project. So in the same year as I bought the project, I'm going to enjoy a tax deduction of $560,000. It's a $3.15 million purchase on this project using other people's money, and I'm going to enjoy a $560,000 tax deduction thanks to the cost segregation company. Of course, I have attorneys on these projects. There's real estate attorneys, securities attorneys, CPA. All of these are members of the network. This is what I'm opening up to the members of my community, to my students, so they can get the jump start for themselves using the exact same resources that I've already vetted and connections I've established over the last 15 years. So that's the new opportunity, which I'm happy to invite you to work with me, my team, and my network in getting started, to get your jump start in small apartments. To work with us, there's 3 simple steps. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. Step 1, you learn my system and you're going to learn my software. This is our Greenlight software. This is how we greenlight these deals. And in the process of you learning, we're going to help customize your 12-month plan with you. We're going to help you personally develop a customized plan because everybody starts where you are today. And we're going to take you from your current point A, whatever that is, to your current point B, where do you want to be 12 months from now, so that once you learn the system and you have the system, you have in confidence the next steps you need to follow to get your first 12 months successful. Once you're trained, you go to step 2, because now you're trained and certified. Now you have the support of me, my team, my deal-making team, and my network, because you're certified. Now you can interact with my support infrastructure. You can interact with my Wealth Mastermind network because you're all in the same language. We're all using the same tools. We're all talking the same speak. And then step 3, with every lead, every green light lead that you produce, you have 3 ways to profit. One way is you can buy that lead. Using my network, you can use my buyer-lender network. Second profit center, you can flip every lead, and you can flip it to the buyers in my network. Or 3, you can partner with me. Send me the lead, I'll pay you a finder's fee, and I'll go do the transaction, as I just showed you what I did with Diana Donner. So if you're interested in getting started with small apartments, interested in working with me, my team, and my network, I want to remind you, you're just one deal away. Everyone is just one deal away. Whether it's your first real estate deal of any kind, whether it's your first small apartment deal, whether it's your first large deal, you're just one deal away. So if you'd like to investigate working with me, my team, and my network and getting started in apartments, click the link below and I'll explain how you can do that.